Welcome. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad you found this channel. This is a space created specifically for women's going through one of the most intense and most misunderstood phases of life. A space where your experience is taken seriously, where your symptoms are not minimized, where nobody is going to say it's just menopause and move on. Here we go deep because you deserve real answers. And if you've been here before and you're coming back to this video, then you already know that what we share here isn't surface level. It's information that changes the way you understand your own body. Today, I want to talk to you about something that completely shifted my perspective on hot flashes after 50. Something no doctor in a rushed 15-minute appointment ever clearly explained to me, that no women's magazine ever put on the cover, that even the most well meaning people around me couldn't quite communicate when they kept repeating over and over again that phrase you've probably heard dozens of times by now. It's just menopause. But what if it's not just menopause? What if those sudden waves of heat that rise through your body without warning, the racing heart in the middle of the night, the exhaustion that appears out of nowhere even after a full night in bed, the irritability that flares up without any obvious reason, the mental fog that makes it hard to concentrate on even simple things, the emotional overwhelm that just won't lift? What if all of that is actually a set of signals from a body that is desperately trying to regain balance after years of silent hormonal overload? Because the truth, the one nobody tends to say clearly, is that many women reach their 50s believing their bodies are simply shutting down, as if feeling disconnected from yourself is just an inevitable consequence of getting older, as if the exhaustion, the emotional instability, and the physical discomfort are the new normal that must be accepted without question. And for years, decades, millions of women have been taught to accept their symptoms instead of understanding them. I remember hearing women describe this experience in different ways, but all converging on the same place of confusion and silent suffering. One of them said she felt like her body was on fire at random moments throughout the day, in the middle of a work meeting, at the grocery store, having dinner with her family. Another admitted, with a mix of shame and relief at finally saying it out loud, that she hadn't slept a full night in years. Some described a growing, inexplicable anxiety that appeared from nowhere and settled in like a permanent shadow. Others talked about a constant emotional exhaustion, even when life around them seemed stable, organized, and good. And almost every single one of them heard the same response: it's menopause. Get used to it. But the more I started studying hormonal health after 50, the more I realized something that completely changed how I looked at all of this. Hormones don't work alone. They are in constant communication, a silent, ongoing conversation with sleep, with stress, with blood sugar, with inflammation, with the nervous system, and even with the emotional weight accumulated over decades. When estrogen begins to fluctuate more intensely, the entire body feels it. Not just the uterus, not just the ovaries, the entire body. The nervous system becomes more sensitive to cortisol, the stress hormone. Sleep quality changes profoundly. Insulin regulation loses efficiency. The autonomic nervous system, which controls functions we don't even consciously notice, becomes overloaded more easily, and suddenly the body begins struggling to regulate temperature the way it always did, effortlessly without you even noticing. That's why hot flashes feel so unpredictable, so out of control. Because it's not simply heat, it's the nervous system reacting to an internal instability that goes far beyond temperature. And what shocked me most was discovering how many daily habits, completely normal ones that most of us have, quietly intensify this process without women ever realizing it. Chronic stress that has become a way of life. Sleep recovery that is never truly complete. excess sugar that became a form of comfort, silent inflammation that builds year after year, the emotional exhaustion that women carry without complaining because it's always been this way, nutritional deficiencies that settle in slowly over years, even simply living in a constant fight or flight state, always alert, always managing, always solving, can make hot flashes more intense and more frequent. The body is not betraying you, the body is responding. That realization changes everything. Because when you understand that the nervous system and hormones are deeply connected, that one directly and constantly influences the other, you stop seeing your symptoms as punishment for aging and you start seeing them as communication, as messages from a system that is asking for attention, care, and support. I began noticing very interesting patterns. Women who improved the consistency of their sleep reported fewer nighttime heat surges. Women who incorporated gentle movement into their routines described a reduction in the emotional tension they had been carrying. Better hydration improved energy in ways that seemed almost too simple to be real. Slower, more conscious breathing patterns helped calm stress responses that had previously felt automatic and uncontrollable. Even small, intentional moments of nervous system regulation, just a few minutes each day, created measurable differences in how the body responded to hormonal fluctuations. And this is where something surprisingly simple began gaining attention among women who were looking for natural relief: the 5-minute reset. Not a miracle, not an overnight cure. There is nothing that resolves in 24 hours what has been building for years, but it is a calming daily ritual designed specifically to help the nervous system shift away from chronic overstimulation and into a state of greater balance. Because when the body spends years trapped in stress mode, hormonal communication becomes chaotic. The brain struggles to regulate temperature efficiently. Cortisol remains elevated even when there is no real threat present. Sleep fragments, and every hormonal fluctuation is amplified, felt more intensely than it should be. The reset itself is surprisingly accessible: slow, conscious breathing, gentle body movement, intentional hydration, reducing overstimulation, especially in the hours before sleep, supporting blood sugar balance, creating moments where the nervous system finally feels safe enough to truly relax. And studies around stress regulation and hormonal health continue showing something powerful. When the nervous system becomes calmer and more regulated, the body often responds more efficiently to hormonal changes. That doesn't mean symptoms disappear instantly, but it explains why so many women report feeling emotionally steadier, sleeping better, experiencing fewer intense heat waves, and regaining energy when they consistently support their bodies instead of fighting against them. Speaking specifically about the support that the product linked in the pinned comment offers, it was developed with exactly this connection in mind between the nervous system, hormonal balance, and quality of life during the menopause transition. With a combination of ingredients aimed at natural hormonal support, it works as an ally in this recalibration process the body needs. If you're looking for a way to complement your daily habits with targeted nutritional support, the link is in the first pinned comment right below this video. But back to what is perhaps the most emotionally powerful part of all of this. What makes this understanding so intense for so many women is realizing how long they spent blaming themselves, thinking they were becoming weak, that they were overreacting, that they were being too emotional, that the sharp memory they once had was failing because something was fundamentally wrong with them, not with the circumstances they were living through, that the fatigue they felt was disguised laziness, that the irritability was a lack of emotional control. But imagine for a moment what it means to carry years of accumulated stress, incomplete recovery, constant emotional pressure, profound hormonal changes, silent inflammation, and physical and emotional exhaustion. All at the same time, your hormonal system is going through one of the greatest biological transitions of your life. Of course, the body sends signals. Of course, it asks for support. And maybe that's why so many women become emotional the moment they finally understand this. Because for the first time, the symptoms make sense. For the first time, the pain has an explanation that doesn't begin and end with "you're getting older, accept it." The hot flashes, the sudden mood changes that come from nowhere, the nights staring at the ceiling while the rest of the world sleeps peacefully, the exhaustion that coffee no longer fixes, the feeling of no longer recognizing yourself, not in the physical sense, but in the sense of not knowing who this woman is that you've been becoming. This is deeper than aging, much deeper. At some point, I started hearing stories from women who had spent years, in some cases decades, searching for answers, who went from doctor to doctor, who tried things that didn't work, who came to believe it was their own fault, that something was wrong with who they were as people, and who only understood how deeply the nervous system is connected to hormonal balance when someone finally stopped and explained it clearly, without rushing, without judgment, without minimizing what they were feeling. Many of them began following simple daily regulation practices and noticed their bodies responding differently over time. Not overnight, but consistently, really, and measurably. And that's exactly why we've placed a complete guide in the first pinned comment for women who are struggling with hot flashes, mood swings, and constant fatigue, and who want to find ways to support hormonal balance naturally and intelligently. Because sometimes the most important step is simply understanding what your body has been trying to say all along. And the emotional side of this matters far more than most people realize. Hormonal imbalance doesn't only affect body temperature, it affects confidence, relationships, patience with the people you love most, motivation for the things that used to light you up, the self esteem that was once solid and now seems to be quietly dissolving. Some women stop feeling comfortable in their own skin. They begin avoiding social situations because they're afraid of a hot flash at the wrong moment. In a meeting, at a dinner, at an event. They're afraid of an emotional wave that will make them look unreasonable in front of people who simply don't understand. Many carry in silence a grief for the version of themselves they once recognized with ease. But the human body is incredibly adaptable, even after 50. That's the part nobody talks about enough. The nervous system can become calmer, sleep patterns can improve, energy regulation can stabilize, inflammation can decrease. Hormonal communication can be better supported through consistent, intentional daily habits, not because aging stops, it doesn't stop, but because the body still responds when given the right conditions to do so. And honestly, this changes the entire emotional experience of menopause and the hormonal transition. Instead of seeing yourself as something broken, you begin to understand that your body has been overloaded for a long time. And instead of fighting against it, instead of trying to silence the signals it's sending, you learn to support it. One woman described this in a way that has stayed with me ever since. She said, "For the first time in years, I stopped being afraid of my own body." That sentence stayed with me because fear is exhausting. Feeling like you're losing control of your own body every single day, that any moment could turn into a hot flash, a wave of tears, a sleepless night, creates an emotional tension that only worsens the cycle. Stress intensifies symptoms, symptoms intensify stress, and the nervous system remains trapped in survival mode, unable to find its way back to balance. That's why consistent calming habits matter so much more than people tend to realize. Simple things. Walking every day. It doesn't need to be for hours, just moving the body with intention. Improving magnesium intake, which is a fundamental mineral for the nervous system that most women consume below optimal levels. Reducing overstimulation before bed. screens, news, intense conversations in the hours leading up to sleep. Practicing slow breathing for a few minutes each morning before the day begins. Supporting hydration consistently throughout the day. Prioritizing recovery. Not just the number of hours slept, but the actual quality of that sleep. Creating small rituals of care that tell the nervous system, you are safe, you can rest now. These actions seem insignificant in isolation, but together they create an internal environment where the body no longer feels constantly under attack. And when the body feels safer, hormonal fluctuations tend to become less aggressive, both emotionally and physically. That's also why so many women dealing with persistent hot flashes, emotional instability, and low energy have been looking for additional support through the complete hormonal reset method available in the pinned comment. Because relief doesn't always come from extreme solutions. Sometimes it comes from finally understanding how to work with your body, not against it. And perhaps the most comforting truth of all is this: you are not failing. Your body is adapting. The heat waves, the emotional sensitivity, the exhaustion, the broken sleep, these are not signs that life is over, that the best is already behind you, or that your body has given up on you. They are signs that your system is asking for support during one of the greatest biological transitions of your life. This isn't about stopping aging, it's about understanding how the body changes after 50 and learning how to support those changes with intelligence, gentleness, and consistency. Research continues exploring how nervous system regulation, sleep quality, stress reduction, movement, blood sugar balance, and nutritional support can positively influence hormonal health and overall well being during this phase of life. And that should leave every woman with genuine hope. Because improvement is possible. Feeling emotionally balanced again is possible. Sleeping better is possible. Having more energy is possible. Feeling connected to yourself again is possible. You are not alone in this experience. Millions of women are going through the same silent struggle, and many are finally realizing that their symptoms deserve understanding, not dismissal. So, if this message resonated with you in any way, stay connected with us, subscribe to the channel, and continue this journey with us because the more we understand the body, the more empowered we become to support it with calm, intelligence, and compassion. And don't forget, the link to the product that supports hormonal health during menopause is in the very first pinned comment below this video. It was designed to be a real ally during this transition, something that works alongside your habits, not instead of them. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.